Welcome to People First by All Voices. I'm your host, Jeffrey Fermin. With me, I have Heather Doshay. I want to give you the floor to give yourself a proper introduction here. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Oh my gosh, that's so much pressure. It's exciting. Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Doshay. I am now a founder. My company's in stealth. I'll be launching later this month in September. But essentially, I am in this like transition fund mode of taking a bet on myself after, a long time being a startup operator, a founding VP of people for multiple companies, followed by a VC talent partner for a number of years. And I am taking all of those skills and getting to work more with a number of founders in the company building areas that matter most. And I'm based in the Pacific Northwest, but today you have me at my parents' house in Los Angeles. So fun times.
Nothing wrong with that. And yeah, I mean, you're kind of popular. You're kind of big on LinkedIn, right? I
Not
mean,
medium,
okay,
medium on.
it's popular. It's a lot of folks like to say like, "Oh, we have X amount of followers." Like, that doesn't
Yeah.
really factor in influence. I think, recently you were kind of had this little poll take off, kind of had a little bit of spice to it, a lot of conversation around it. Why don't you tell us about what was said and
Yeah.
what were some of the responses?
I love it. I'm really into the poll feature on LinkedIn. I don't know about you, but I think it's just fun where people sometimes they're lurkers on LinkedIn. I don't know if you've sensed this, but they read the content. Like I'll be like, "Oh, I love your post," but like I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know that because you've never engaged with him." But the polls are a little easier because you can sort of like, anonymously sort of get involved and put your thoughts out there. So I've been running all these thought experiments, which I think are very fun, where you give people a menu of options and say, "Which one would you choose?" And there's so much insight into human behavior and how people work in organizations. So I wanted to know, like, which manager type do people like the best? Because I think a lot of people think management is this like really challenging thing with a lot of emotional labor. There's all this work around developing people and all things, and that's true. But when the poll happened, I gave four types. Okay, so the first type was like no BS, clear, concise. You must say the thing. Like they're not going to ask how your weekend was. They're just going to give you the information. But it's always clear, it's always fair, it's always consistent. Second type is like the lover. Like they're just going to be so kind and thoughtful of you. They're going to invest in you. They're going to be like constantly developing you. But the downside is because they're very people first, maybe business afterward, less opportunities, less growth, etc. The third type, create a visionary, like this person who is so like off into the midst of things and like they're very fun to listen to. And when they tell a story, you're like listening with all your thoughts, but they maybe forget to be a manager sometimes for it to give you the things that you really need. And then the last type is like the hard charging, kind of what's in vogue right now and what I thought was going to win the poll of like they're intense, they expect you to work all the hours, no vacations, but you're going to grow really fast and grow a lot. My prediction was that the most supportive manager and the most hard charging growth manager would be the winners. But it was wrong. Like by a factor of three, the clear, concise, no BS, fair manager who had like no empathy in the description whatsoever won by a mile. Yeah. So you're surprised, right?
Yeah, no,
By a
definitely, and
mile.
and especially I mean, we host a show called People First here. We're expecting
Yeah.
the lovey-dovey type to be the one that kind of wins that over here. And it's, when you're in conversation with friends, the complaints around the managers are just like, man, I don't know if I could say this on my own show, but I could be an asshole or like, oh my God,
Yeah.
they're just awful to deal with. And yeah,
Hmm.
I wouldn't want to work with someone like that. But now we're seeing,
Yeah.
at least into this small
Yeah.
sample size, that like this could be
Yeah.
very well in this era of work, who people wanna
Totally.
work for.
And obviously, like the people that follow me are a certain type, and it's a small number. Like this is not scientific, experimentation. This is just a thought experiment. But it was really clear that the reason for it was this idea of managers being clear, consistent, and fair. And at the core, you want to be developed in, you want all the fields, but if you're going to make trade offs somewhere, it's not going to be on consistency or clarity. And in the end of the day, like clear is kind, get out of my way, let me do my good work, and like move on with my life. I think especially like in a post pandemic era where people have been more working from home or working remote. And in an era where I think a lot of people like decided what's important to them, work was sort of like this thing to get done. And as much as they want to develop themselves, like tying your whole identity to work can often be almost a detriment because it's more emotional, it's more laborious for you as an employee. So I, looking back in hindsight, I wasn't surprised that the clarity, kind of concise, focused, no BS manager won, but it was shocking in the moment to watch these results come in and go, it's not even close. So,
Yeah. Good
yeah.
segue into the, topic of today, right? Like, the people management and where the world's going. There's so many articles written out, about where things are going with AI, the people management side, like, how should we manage, an AI ready workforce? CEO memos going out almost every single day saying like, hey, we're going to splash out all these jobs and we're going to see it as a replacement. Others saying like, no, we need to train this next wave of workers to be ready for it. All that to
Mhm.
say is every factor, even ones outside of AI, why is people management still a core part of just working? Or why
Yeah.
better the better question is, why is people management still essential in today's day and age and moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue it's not even still it's more essential than it ever has been because first of all, you're naming it. There's a lot of fear around jobs going away. There's a lot of fear around these things that are happening. And so there are people who are reporting into managers who feel like they're working in a place of fear. Like it's not even like psychological safety. It's like baseline like physical safety because they're not sure if they're going to have a financial, they're going to have like a paycheck the next week. Because there's so many companies that are rapidly shifting and trying to figure out these various AI experiments. And I would tell people it's okay, like, it's understandable to be fearful, but it's also really unlikely. If you've seen the headlines of companies downsizing teams for AI, there's probably equal or as many headlines that are like, "And they're flipping it back. It didn't work." Like, I think the latest one this week was, like, Taco Bell shifting to, like, AI agents for all of its voice ordering, but then somebody ordered, like, 18,000 cups of water, and the AI couldn't catch it, and they realized they are not ready yet for that world, and so granted, like, the people listening to this are probably not, worried about fast food jobs, but it is a good kind of parallel to what's happening in the workforce. Is just, will my job exist? And like, what's the value of me? And my thought is that being a people manager is going to be a more important job than ever because all of us are going to be managers. We're going to manage a mix of humans and AI agents. And I actually believe that for a lot of people who never thought they were going to be a manager, they're having to learn to be a manager in real time as they manage AI in their job because AI is augmenting their team. And so while it's not a human with a heartbeat in the seat, it's the would be thing. It's how the work is getting done. And so it is a part of the team in some extent, even as weird as that sounds. Like I'm not trying to be like a sci-fi weirdo, but I do think that if you can learn management skills to the pull, clarity, consistency, concision, good communication, no BS, get to the point. Those are the same skills that AI needs to be effective as much as humans do. And it's a weird thought that they're very much one and the same.
Yeah, I personally hate those, like I personally hate the times when, like, you're prompting something and you have to go back and forward, and it's almost kind of like, oh my god, I'm gonna hate saying this, but it's like having a bad employee and they just can't
Yeah.
get their act together, and then you get a little angry and you start saying like, "No, this is what I want. Please get it right." Uh, so that
But
happens.
actually, just to push back on that, so here's the thing, right? So a good people manager will have the same feeling, right? An employee, why aren't they performing? Why aren't they doing what I want of them? Did you set clear expectations from the beginning? Prompting or expectation setting, right? Like in one case, maybe it's a 30, 60, 90 good onboarding plan. In the other case, it's did you start with the right prompt? I remember I was trying to build like a little app in Replit and the worse, it got worse. Like the more I built, the farther and farther I got from what I wanted it to do. It just kept hallucinating more and more and more and doing all these weird things. So I finally talked to the solutions engineering team at Replit and I was like, what's happening to my app? Like, how is it getting worse the more I hone it? And they said basically it's because your founding prompt was too far off. And so what's the best thing you can do is set the best expectations up front in the very, very beginning. And if you get, I almost start over, like do a new Replit project and get 90% there on the first thing versus trying to give it a little bit and then edit it over time. It's no different with a human being. If you come into a new job and your manager kind of leaves you like off at the deep end to figure your stuff out and you do the wrong thing and they start giving you micro feedback, there's nothing worse for a manager than micro feedback versus a manager who says, hey, I'm going to be hard charging the beginning. Here are all my expectations for you, but you know exactly what your scaffolding is, like where you can play. And so it's really quite the same thing. And I think there will always be humans in the mix in companies. Somebody has to manage the AI. And if there are just fully run AI only companies, there's still a human somewhere. And so if you're the human that's in that mix, whether it's your own company or you're working for someone else, like you're going to manage AI or humans or both. And either way, the same skill of clarity, consistency, expectation setting, it matters for both. One other thing, because I'm on my little soapbox right now, is that I do believe that companies aren't that companies might get smaller, but I think there are going to be more companies. Because if you are saying, okay, I want to hit this goal, I can do it now with fewer people if I have AI. Well, guess what? You can either choose to say, and same goal, or what if you quadrupled the goal? So you stayed big, you just got farther faster because you had AI. So you didn't actually downsize. And if you did downsize, like all of these people now out in the world, like have the ability to found their own company because they have all the capabilities of AI. So I just predict there's going to be more companies and there's still going to be large companies in the mix. They're just doing more efficiently, the same way we all did when you move from like a fax machine to a computer.
Yeah, I've also seen a very nice rise in fractional workers, whether it's
Mhm.
marketers, content creators. We're seeing fractional HR get a massive push, and now there's like little niches, right? There's like fractional HR folks specializing in AI automations, and there's several of
Yeah.
these folks out there that are starting up businesses and are finding their way helping organizations thrive by teaching and by forming their own companies and having small teams
Yeah.
and educating larger organizations. So interesting trend that we're going to keep our
Yeah.
eyes
I
on
love
over
it.
here. And
Yeah.
I just want to go back to another company that had a little bit of controversy this week, considering I posted about it this week, and I feel a little bit guilty. But Klarna just had their whole entire, they're right now they're going undergoing an IPO, and they have a lot of hype, and they're trying to potentially venture out and become their own bank, so to speak. So they actually got into a little bit of hot water because what's it called? They laid off thousands of employees, and now they are, reshuffling
Rehiring.
and trying to put marketers and engineers doing support roles because they laid off most of those engineers. Is there a way, and all this to say, is there a way to thoughtfully go about handling some of these pivots, whether it's, conducting layoffs or doing all these things? I mean, Salesforce is now
Yeah.
getting into trouble for it too. Like, what is if there is a right way to go about this?
It's so nuanced. I think, um, look, there's a lot of pressure if you're a founder or a CEO of a company that's trying to IPO, that you're trying to maximize your market share. You're trying to maximize like your valuation because this is your last moment to get out there and do all of that. And so ultimately, these companies feel this high pressure of like, what can I do that's more efficient, quote unquote? Like, how can it be more revenue per head? Things that are going to signal to the market, invest in us. And ultimately, people oftentimes like put people first versus business first at like two ends of the spectrum, like they're a trade-off, but there is no people without the business existing and doing well. It's the better the business does, the more people you can hire. And I think what happens sometimes is companies, especially larger companies, make really short-sighted decisions to create an optic illusion of efficiency by getting rid of a number of people for a period of time when they're reporting on it. And then hoping that they have the right plan where it could be more efficient than they thought it was. But usually they cut too deep or they cut the wrong ways or they don't understand their business well enough and they didn't think through all the nuance when they made the decision. And then they end up having to go back and hire back. And there's nothing more inefficient to me than the hiring, rehiring cycle of people when you're doing these layoffs. I do think there's a world where there are teams that are downsizing their people because they have the wrong skills and that they're trying to do some sort of an AI transformation and the large majority of people they have are not really like AI ready in the way that they need for the skills. You'll see them rehiring, but they're rehiring for a different skill set. And I have some understanding and empathy of that, but I think there's a way to do it. And I also think when they do these grand experiments and it ends up in the news and then it fails, you look kind of dumb, you know? And so, like, how can you do a little smarter experimentation within a company before you make the big cuts? Like, could you think through some things like maybe pausing hiring for a bit until you figure it out or enabling a few people in a pod on your team and the function that you think you can cut with AI and see how much like 6 people can get done and see if it can match the work of the other 600 in the other org and just try it out first because usually like AI is not there yet, right? ChatGPT is 5 is great and it's better than like, 4, but it's not great yet. Like it still messes things up all the time. It's still really messy, I think. And so I think companies are just in a world where the economy is bad and companies feel all this pressure and AI feels like this potential silver bullet that will solve all their problems. They just take the chance and it's usually a little bit too hasty and wrong. So I'm with you. I think it looks like it's a bad look and it's not very friendly, but I get why they did it. I just don't think they thought it all the way through.
Yeah, fantastic points all across, by the way. Like,
Yeah, okay. I
awesome.
was like, I feel like, I'm not sure I just like blacked out there and just said stuff for a bit.
No,
So
no, no, you did great. Yeah, that should be aired on MSNBC. Those were all fantastic points, or a news station, anyone. Yeah.
oh,
Okay, so going back to people management, right?
yeah.
That's kind of where things are at right now. Let's conduct a nice little thought experiment of our own right now.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's take all these things into account. AI, leaner workplaces, more fractional employees. Where do you see like people management evolving in 5, 10 years?
Yeah. So right now, if you look at career pathways inside of companies, there's like IC tracks and people management tracks. And I think this might merge. So it used to be one big path, and there was a whole movement maybe a decade ago to keep them on separate tracks so that there was a path for people who are never going to be managers and a path for people who were. When everybody is going to essentially be managing AI in their role, management skills are going to be essential for everyone. And so I do actually think that they may remerge again as a new pathway where everyone has a semblance of what kind of people management capabilities they have or management capabilities that might also include AI. And so I think it's getting clear on what that is. And I think the kind of moment is like, empathy only matters to a human direct report. It does not matter to AI. Um, but like I mentioned in the beginning of the poll, like the thing that matters the most is clarity, consistency, fairness. Like the expectations are being set clearly and fairly, and everything is there. And that's the part that's in the middle of the Venn diagram. Like you said, this is what AI needs to be managed well. This is what a human needs. The part that is shared is the exact part that people were saying in my poll this week is what they want and need the most. If they're going to trade off something, they're going to trade off all the human components. And so I just see a future world where everybody can and will learn to be a manager and the word people might just fall off. And I think that people can probably manage the same number of humans because there's a time component, but those humans are all going to be managers too. And so now it's this world of like when you're in the middle of a company and you're a middle manager, everyone's middle managers basically, even if you're a traditional IC. So I don't know exactly what those competencies will evolve to be. I think it's going to depend on what AI can do. But I do think if you're in the workforce now and you're looking for job stability in the future and you're trying to figure out like what's my secure path going forward, I think becoming an excellent manager of AI agents is a great place to start and recognizing what parts of those also apply to human cases so that you open up the aperture on what you're capable of doing when you get called to do it.
I'm going to take it back to those four different archetypes for a second. Considering that, management is so unique and especially for, let's say, a marketing leader, you have so many different types of personalities. You may have an automation specialist that is very kind of like type A, and then you have a creative person that's just kind of out there and making kind of like fun stuff. They're probably always late, right? Like, do you have to, all that to say is, do you have to, as a manager, understand like maybe switching up those archetypes per person? And as funny story. I coached football coming out of high school, and then I was like, "Oh my god, I have all these different players to work with, and all of them are so unique that I have to motivate them in different ways."
Yeah.
Does the same apply to people management, where you have to kind of say, like, "This person's not going to react well to this. I have to now tinker my style up to make sure that maybe they need little bit more, tender love and care, whereas someone else might be more direct."
Yeah. Okay, well, I love this parallel, and by the way, like, coaching is management and vice versa. There's a lot of like, that Venn diagram is even more overlapped. It's just management has some other components beyond the coaching piece, and so, yeah, I mean, I think there are plenty of managers who don't change their style for anyone, and they can be effective if they are consistent, fair, clear. However, I think there's stylistic approaches that everyone takes in how they do their work, whether like not every marketer is the same either, right? So like not every HR person is the same. So you have to kind of decide like what's my strength set. And like Strengths Finder, you can like get your 5 top strengths. One of mine happens to be individualization. So I'm a little bit biased here. Individualization means that I see the unique capabilities and talent of each person that I work with, and I'm going to optimize the role that they play on the team and with me based on that. And so I like to orchestrate and design org dynamics around how do we get people in their like zone of genius, and build around maybe where they have gaps versus trying to compensate or push against those things. Like, is there a chance where there's like that win-win? And so I think the best managers do that to some extent, but I don't think everyone sees it. Like when you saw your players, you knew what each of the, like you could uh, kind of understand maybe even what they didn't know, what they might need in order to succeed. And I think about it from this theory of like it's called challenge and support. It's like a adult developmental theory, but the idea that people need the right balance of both challenge and support to be successful. But what defines challenge and support for any of us is totally different based on where we are in life, what our strengths are, all these things. And so, like, the key thing for me here is you kind of got to be manager number one, the one that won, clear, consistent, fair. But you also kind of have to be a manager who understands who your people are. And that's not what their personal life looks like necessarily. It could be, but it's not. It's more like, what do they need to succeed? Where are they happiest? Where are their strengths? And then adjusting how you stretch them, how you challenge them, and how you support them based on where those strengths are. And I don't know that enough managers really do that right now, but it's not everyone's strength. And so recognizing like what your strengths are as a manager, like what are the things that you bring that are unique and making those your edge, and then hoping that you kind of attract in the right teams based on that.
Very well said. I have to give a little kudos to my current manager, VP of marketing over here, Emily. She does a great job. Excuse me. She does a really great job of like one setting those expectations. She's used the phrase clarity is kindness plenty of times over here, but she also knows when to kind of like be human, be kind of loving it, and yeah, she plays the role really well here, as well as all the managers
Yeah.
over here at All Voices. So just want to give them a little bit of love.
Yeah.
If they
Oh, I
see
love
this,
that.
yeah, just
You
have to
made
give
her
them
day.
yeah, give her flowers. She needs them. Not she
Yeah,
doesn't need
managers
them. She
so
gets
rarely get
enough.
feedback. Well, I was gonna say managers often don't get the feedback back on how they're doing because there's a power dynamic and people are afraid, And so like you're giving her this clarity as kindness too. You're letting her know what she does really well so she can double down on it. Managing up is a whole other topic for a whole other day, but that's also very important. And so yes, it was great chatting with you though, Jeffrey.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Let's wrap this up and I'll let you get to it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right.